Hello everyone, welcome to my humble little shop here, and today I'm attempting a little one-day build, little infrastructure upgrade for the shop, because I've got a problem, and that problem is I've got all these nice little tools, got impact drill driver, some nailers, a little stapler, but for now I've just been storing them all in this little shelf right here, and it's just been a mess in there. They're just piled up, and that's no good. So what I need to do is build a little rack for them that can let me easily store them, organized, access all of them, nothing on top of each other. I'll be able to just pull them out, put them in without any problem. How I'm going to do that is with a little rack that's going to go all the way across, down, have laterals all the way, and small shelves that will hold on either side like that. The exact design, not finalized yet. I'm gonna work on that right now, take some measurements, and we're gonna get right into it. All right, so what I gotta do first is make my design for how I'm gonna hold all of these tools. And I know that I want it to fit inside the shelf here. So it's going to be, forgive my horrible sketching skills. I'm not an artist, but we're going to have it roughly a design like this. We have a crossbar, two uprights. The uprights may have some feet on them, which will come out like that. And then we'll have a series of posts coming down like this all the way across. And off of those, they'll have little stringers on the bottom. And then this right here is where the tool will go. And so hopefully, if I design it properly, I'll be able to just pull right out and be ready to use. So I gotta take a couple measurements real quick. I've got 4 tools that I'm gonna want in bays like that, as well as the stapler, which I may have try and design something where it just has a little hook system so I can slide it on, because unlike most of these other tools which have a top that comes out in a circle and a thinner handle so they can sit in the rail, our stapler here does not have that. It's all the same width, but hopefully I can get it to just hang in on the middle section. So to start, I need measurements of my cabinet space, which, let's go ahead and get a better view of that. I may block the view here, but you know, I'm not a cinematographer either. All right, so max height we have to work with is, let's go with 12 3/4 to keep it, have a little bit of space. 3/4 inches. I think I'm willing to scrap all of that and move that somewhere else if I need to. Gotta get it through the door, so we're gonna go with 24 and a half. All right, and our depth that we're gonna be working with is probably gonna be about 17, we're structuring 16, because I don't need it to be that deep anyway. So a little bit of depth in this image just so I know what I'm talking about. All right, perfect, so we got that. Now let's make some measurements on these tools. I'll move our camera again, keep us with a good angle. Quite a couple tools here, all have slightly different dimensions. Let's see, our driver is 9 deep and about 2 and just 2 inches at its widest. the handle. That is going to be 1.25 inches. And we got a saw. Perfect. Okay. Next tool we got our impact writer. All right, so we have all our measurements taken down, our rough design. Now it's pretty much time to start getting down to working on it. I've got myself a bunch of bunch of 1x4, which is going to be our material for this. It's just, you know, cheap common board 1x4, nothing's fancy. Not like this is going to be particularly structural or anything, so we're just going to work with cheap wood, get the project done without breaking the bank, because that's what matters when you don't work full time and you just want to have some fun. Anyway, I digress. I'm going to get my space set up and we'll be back doing some work. Alright, now we're ready to actually make our cuts. And I've done something which I've learned is a very important part of this type of project, which is making a cut list. Because if you don't do this, it's very easy to forget what you're doing, forget a piece, not take the construction into account when you're doing your measurement for the actual cuts themselves. So it's very important to know exactly what you're cutting before you start cutting. Tape measuring pencil over here. But we're going to get going on this. We're going to start with the major cuts to make the actual frame itself. I'm going to be working with these normal pieces right here. Always want to be careful not to ruin your blades. A lot of times, regular wood like this has staples in the end. I can't see it on camera, but a lot of them have staples in the end for the things like the price tags, and you want to just kind of take those out. If you hit them with the saw blade, it's not good for it. Not particularly dangerous or anything, but you don't want to mess up your blades. These blades are expensive. This one's being particularly tenacious, but I'll get it out of there. Alright. And then the next thing that's important is ear protection, eye protection. Always, even though I sometimes will forget, but do as I say, not as I do. Also, power tools. They tend to work best with electricity. So let's get that going. Hopefully I won't knock over my tripod. That would be embarrassing. Okay. Another thing which is just good practice is to square your cuts, square your wood first. So the factory edges are usually pretty darn good, but it can't hurt to make sure everything's nice and square for yourself. So start by just taking one cut in, 1/4 inch in, just to get a clean edge before you start measuring stuff out. Alright. Another thing to note for chop saws is you don't want to make your cut and pull the blade up immediately before it stops spinning, or at least slows down considerably. This model has a brake on it, which makes that a more convenient process, but if you try and pull it out while it's still spinning, there's a good chance that you could tweak stuff, it could catch and throw a piece of wood at you, which you never want to happen. That's never fun. So just make sure it starts slowing down before you pull it out. I also feel like it should be said, don't take this as gospel. I am not a very experienced woodworker or a great fine woodworker. Just having a little fun and trying to impart a touch of knowledge if I can. And hopefully be somewhat entertaining, but you know, we all know how that usually goes. All right. I also tend to like to put my bigger section of wood off to the left because since I'm right-handed, I tend to pull down the blade with my right hand. I like to hold the bigger section down with my left, and I'm making sure that I have my blade on the right side of the line because there's something that a lot of people forget. Saw blades are not two-dimensional. They have a thickness, and that's called the kerf. So you got to make sure that you're cutting the right thing. And a good trick to always do is draw little cut marks so you know which side is going away. And you may think like, oh, that's stupid. I know what I'm doing. I know which side of the piece I'm cutting. I just made the mark. But man, you would be amazed at how often and how easy it is to screw that up, cut on the wrong side, and you've just ruined a whole piece of wood. But that's also the reason you start with your longest cuts first, because if you mess them up, you can still use it for a smaller cut. Go. All right, first piece done. I'm gonna go ahead and mark that as the 24-inch. Looks like 2/8 inch. Let me go ahead and clean that up a little bit. And a lot of times, if you're doing like finish work, you wouldn't want to be marking up your wood like that because it's going to look ugly. But for me, it doesn't matter too much since this is just a practical piece. I'm not going to care about what it looks like. All right, next thing we got to do is, oops, I have a mistake on my cut list, but caught it. Need 2 at 12¼ inches. And I think I'm not going to make the cut on this piece. I'm going to save this piece for later because we've got a real nasty knot right here, which is pretty close to where the cut's going to be on either, if I go in from either end. And I don't want that because it'll be really weak and hard to glue and screw into. So I'll save this for a later cut for some of the smaller pieces where I can avoid that knot. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and use this guy right here. Take this staple out of here. And I'm going to square off my corner here. Okay, let's measure out our 12¼ inches. All right. Yep, that's one cut. Of course, put the blade just up to that line and make our cut. Okay, and now, see someone make one cut on a chop saw, you've seen it all. So we're going to probably go ahead and cut the time lapse here. And I'll see you guys once we've got all our cuts done. All right, now we got all our cuts made. Have them all here nicely labeled. Got all of them with the measurement and what section they're for. But unfortunately, as anyone who's ever done woodworking knows, a one-day build always takes longer than 1 day. So I'm gonna have to come back to this on another day. Hopefully I'll be able to get back to it tomorrow. But for you, it'll just be a matter of seconds. And when we're back, we're going to be starting our final assembly. Should have everything cut. Always, I'm not a great designer, so I tend to have to make some on-the-fly modifications when I start doing the assembly process for these types of projects. But you always learn. Every time you make a mistake and have to change something, that's something not to do next time, and you're going to do better the next project you make. So it's all about growth. Well, I'll be back in just a moment. A couple of seconds for you, probably a whole day for me, maybe even more. But we're going to get this project done, and I'm going to be very happy with my organization once we're done. Stay tuned. All right, we're back here. I've been probably away for a couple days since the last clip we had in here, so I'm getting my bearings back. But where we stopped, we've done all of our cross cuts on the chop saw, and we've got everything set out, labeled with which cuts are for which tool, and we're pretty much ready to assemble. But we have one more thing we got to do, just something I actually, full honesty, kind of forgotten when I was doing my initial rip cuts. But if we have our example pieces set up here, grab the 18 gauge for example. We'll have these coming off the top crossbar, and then these will hang down, and that's what's going to support our tool. Clearly, these are far wider than I need them to be. That's just a bit absurd. So what we're going to do is make some rip cuts on the table saw and bring them down to about this width, because that is a much more reasonable base to hang the tool off of. So without further ado, I'm going to jump over to the time lapse and you'll see me make those cuts on the table saw. Well, egg on my face, went over to the table saw, got everything set up perfect, great shot, got the time lapse ready to go. Didn't hit record. But we have our pieces all ripped down to size, so we're going to be ready to assemble right now. I'm just going to have to, going to do it one piece at a time and not really do too much measuring, just kind of lay it out and step by step see how it feels, space it out with the tool itself to just know that I've got it where I want it, to be able to take it in and out easily. So I'm going to start that now, start by doing the top pieces together, then just work my way across. How we're going to attach things is we're going to just do some wood glue and the pin nailer. The 23 gauge pin nailer is a great tool for kind of being a clamping force for a wood glue bond, because wood glue plenty strong for this type of application. Not going to be a lot of strain on any of these joints, so a little bit of glue, a couple of pin nails, it'll hold just fine. One thing to note, little trick of the trade, when you're using wood glue, always put down your bead of glue and then use an acid brush to make sure you've got full coverage, because if you don't, it'll be a weak joint and it will fail eventually. But if you give it a nice good joint with full coverage from the wood glue, it's going to last for as long as you need it to. So, without further ado, again, let's head to time lapse, and this time I'm actually going to start the time lapse, I promise. Alright, that's the project. We're all done. We got everything in its place. We can grab any tool we need. And I really love that. Makes all the projects so much easier when you just have all the tools at your fingertips. Thank you everybody for hanging out for my first project, blemishes and all. Hopefully we'll be able to get these going a little smoother, figure out all my filming techniques and everything, and also make less mistakes. Less mistakes as I go along doing more projects. Hopefully you like this one enough that you'll come hang out for the next one. Alright, I'll see you guys on the next one.